Welcome to the final edition of the Super Region 4 podcast. Joining me, I got my guy AC with me. I've got Coach McCullough from UTPB, and I got Tanner Draper, former player at CSU Pueblo. And let's not forget AC, former player at Colorado Mesa. Fellas, big weekend. Went just like we predicted. Coach, I think you got everything right, didn't you?
No, sir. Negative.
Let's go ahead and take a look, guys, at the sheet, and all of a sudden we've got the NSIC regional, just like we didn't pick it. Mr. Draper, you got one right. I got one right. The other two in the middle, not so much. We ended up having both the Northern Sun teams kind of pull the RMAC team down for a little bit of the fist fight and didn't want to play high flying, and both of them end up coming out with a win. AC, I think you might have been the most shocked one of the bunch.
I am floored by this. on Saturday, being at the game, I felt like I just played in the game. And for both of them to happen in the exact same fashion, with RMAC schools holding slim leads in the fourth quarter and watching them evaporate right at the end, it was shocking to say the least. And I stand corrected. Looks like the Northern Sun holds supremacy over the RMAC for this year, at least.
Mr. Draper, you had to have some mixed feelings. I mean, I realize you hedged your bets by taking Mankato, but at the same time, you naturally wanted to see Pueblo win.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it on the head. Definitely, we're going with the gut, and knowing what I know, I'm obviously happy I got that over AC. That I can say I know more football for a week than he does, but it sucks. It burns the heart because those seniors, those were the young pups for me. They're the ones when I was walking out of my last game at Western. They were with me and holding me up. So wanted to see them go out, but I'll honestly, I got to salute them. They took my class, we let that standard drop. We didn't win the RMAC, and they actually won it outright, and something I can actually say I did once in my career was win a title not shared. So that's something that, I texted Daniel after the game. I said, man, I'm proud of the player and the career you had. Told him, all the American awards and all that, they mean a lot to him and a lot to me, but I could still beat him in an Oklahoma drill. But I was just telling him, I'm proud of you because, you set that standard back where it was. And I think Pueblo going forward, they'll be in good shape. It's going to be a little bit of shake off, a little bit of a shocker right now. But once they get all the dust settle, they'll be good. And we'll see where they go from now.
Well, I mean, and that's something we can't overlook in all of this is that, guys, when we were taking a look, in the last few years, Mines had pretty much ruled the RMAC. And not just ruled the RMAC, but also Super Region 4 for that matter. So the fact that they're not even on the page, Pueblo had a whole lot to do with that, moving them away, and obviously Western Colorado as well. Coach McCullough, what do you think happened in both of these matchups? Do you think that Bemidji and Mankato were both able to just kind of dictate what happened here in terms of the pace?
Well, AC said it. Both games were kind of the same into the fourth quarter, but they're also different in the sense of, Mankato was kind of not dominated, but you felt like Pueblo kind of the first three quarters had control of that game. I think Pueblo's defense was playing lights out. Mankato's was playing lights out too in the run game and stopping them, and they did a great job of stopping Reggie. But watching that game, you felt like obviously it was going to be low scoring, but Pueblo had everything they wanted into the fourth quarter, and then with 9 minutes to go, those last 9 minutes just fell apart. Whereas Bemidji Western Colorado, statistically, you look at it and
Right.
statistically, I mean, they dominated time of possession, third down, everything.
Yeah.
But that 75-yard fumble recovery, I mean, defense wins championships, and their defense always shows up. And you think both coaches, all four coaches in that game were really good football coaches. But these two obviously have the most head coaching experience. And, I mean, shoot, Hoff always gets it done, man. He's a legend for a reason.
Yeah. I mean, when you really look at it, I thought that some of the experience and the more times you've been in these kind of big games, I thought ended up benefiting both teams who won. No, to some extent, we're going to see the highlights, but I mean, Bemidji was clearly the recipient of a play that the ball just bounced their way. Let's be honest. And you know, at the same time, they're playing good defense, and sometimes you earn those kind of breaks. But at the same time, you know, I know AC, you were shocked with what was going on. There was a moment with, I don't know, 3-4 minutes left in those games where all of a sudden the tide turned and both Northern Sun teams went ahead. And I started thinking to myself, we're going to have an all NSIC super region final. And then this started. Which wasn't good for anybody in my neighborhood when I was dancing like that in the living room. But, and you guys are definitely way too young to know what music that is. But
No,
what
I'm
I'm
not.
going,
No, I'm not.
Come on.
I mean, you guys weren't even born when that came out, I don't think. But anyway, no, but I all of a sudden I was like, is this really happening? You know, because you're both on the road. You don't have any thoughts that I'm going to be going to a game like I'm going to a game this Saturday in Mankato. So it was just wild. What's that?
If you think about it though, like the NSIC teams, they've been playing these kind of ball games all season. Whereas RMAC, it's been blowout, or like even if it's not a blowout on the scoreboard, games are, you know, usually won by, like, you know, they're not going deep into the fourth. How many games, aside from that Grand Valley one early in the season, how many games was Pueblo really like battling late?
Oh, there's no doubt about that. Yeah, and you and I have talked about that. Yeah, I mean, NSIC has, I mean, you play Moorhead. You know, Moorhead's a 500 team. They're going to give you a dogfight. I mean, you play, you know, you go on down the line. I mean, Bemidji lost to Winona. Winona finished at 500. So, I mean, it kind of speaks to some of that for sure. I don't think that the NSIC had a fire-breathing dragon this year. But at the same time, they had a whole lot of good teams right there competing on a weekly basis. And I tell you right now, you look at this bracket, I tell you who's the one who's kicking themselves is Augustana.
Oh, yeah.
They're looking at this going, man, that could have been us. We would have been hosting Bemidji. I mean, the whole deal. But, you know, you had to go to Pueblo and win, and Mankato did that. So let's go ahead, guys, and kind of move on into that first game a little bit. Some of the Mavs Mafia sent me this photo. AC, you were there, boots on the ground. And
they showed up.
You said they represented pretty well.
They showed up. That was a nice crowd for coming from Minnesota. I was surprised.
Yeah, considering that's a flight. Either that or that's a long drive, like 13, 14 hours long. And I'm not trying to do that. But, you know, we look at kind of the box here, guys, before we jump on into any of the video. And, you know, something that stood out to me is Mankato, just like a week ago, they were able to start running Hayden Eckern later in the football game, and he started getting some key chunk yards, and he got a score at the end to go with it. I thought Sam Backer, you know, did yeoman's work and just kept running him just to, you know, kind of make Pueblo respect it. They had a little more balance, I thought, in their offense, and then they were able to go ahead and hit a few that ball on the, you know, down the seam, you know, to Grant Guyette for the score. That all of a sudden really caught my attention. It was like, oh, now they're within 3, and I thought, you know, AC, you were there. I thought Pueblo, the fact that it took them all the way until the almost the end of the game to get an offensive touchdown. You know, they get a pick six. They were settling for field goals just too much.
Yeah, getting into the red zone and not scoring points. You got to score sevens. Like, you can't just hit three all the time. Just Pueblo, I hate to say it, but Pueblo's offense, frankly, didn't show. Their defense did. With the way their defense was playing, if Pueblo's offense played as it had been playing throughout this season, I think they're up maybe double digits like before halftime. But you pointed out their only touchdown in the first half was a defensive score. The offense, I got to give Mankato credit. They shut it down.
Well, I thought it was interesting in the way that they weren't going to let Reggie Ratzlaff beat them. And they basically said, everybody else we'll let you do your thing, but we're not going to let you have the explosives. Now, Coach Draper, did you also notice that? Not the explosives we're used to seeing from Pueblo.
Yeah, honestly, the game plan is kind of what I told AC what I thought the game plan was. I really said Zach was going to have to step into this, and I want the quote for it after is I did say Zach was going to have a big game this week, and the announcer said this was the biggest game of his life. Go back and look at Zach Rokowski's state championship game. Kid had like 6 touchdowns, so wasn't the biggest game of his life, but he stepped up. The one play that, you flash and you look at Reggie's yards, you're like, wow, he did this. It was on a broken play. It was a mesh route where he just happened to get up and yards, and that was the one flash that really we got to see from him. They shadowed him pretty well. They didn't necessarily play a cover 2 over him the whole time, but they had a safety linger into it. If it was cover 3, cover 1, that safety was more or less worrying about that side to him, and so
sure.
Obviously, Pueblo had to find other ways to beat him. I honestly, just from watching the game, I was surprised that Russell didn't break one off. Like how I was waiting for it. He was making a miss, and I was like, he's gonna get one here, and it just never happened. And I think if you look at this game going to halftime, and you're telling, man, we've only had 6 points given up, or we've only given 6 points. You take that up 10 times in a week. Like, I know, Coach, you're like, man, my defense, they're holding them over there, and we're playing this terrible. It's kind of like last week, we're playing this terrible. Where can we go from here? And they never had anything to move on. It's like it was just shocking to see there was no one explosive play that they got to take advantage of, and it felt like every big play just came to Mankato's side. I know there were 7 of them that we talked about that were the big time makers in the game, 2 of them being a penalty, but it honestly, it shows on the scoreboard at the end of the day. You can't have those 7 plays. Football is a game of inches, and there's going to be, rarely there's 7 plays, but there's going to be 4 plays that make a game, and so you can't have those 4 plays going against you, and at that 7 of them.
Coach, you're obviously at UTPB. You guys are a team that has a lot of explosives. Were you surprised that Mankato was able to really limit that?
No, man. It's the playoffs. I mean, 2 great defenses. You look at this game, neither offense was great. I mean, both defenses played lights out. Scipio had the interception for a touchdown. He was the best pass rusher we faced all year. So I knew they had defensive dudes over there for the Thunderwolves. So that was a huge play, but again, we've talked about it, all of us. I mean, they just could not get the explosive. They could not get the one play to get them going. Like he said, Russell, I mean, he was toting it hard, but he still only averaged, 4.7 yards a carry. He couldn't get the big one. Both teams, I mean, Mankato only ran for 3.7 yards a carry. And they may have ran for over 150 yards, but they had 40-something attempts as well. So
yeah, they just kept working at it, right?
Yeah, I mean, neither team could get things going. But at the end of the day, Mankato found a way with 9 minutes to turn the game completely around. Before those 9 minutes, they looked non-existent. I mean,
it was 16-6.
Yeah, and then those last 9 minutes, man, they figured it out, and those guys got rolling, and that O-line did a really good job of moving Pueblo's D-line. But, it's a tale of 2 games, right? 3 quarters, Pueblo won. In the last quarter, Mankato won. Just like the week before with Mankato, they lost 58 minutes.
Right.
And won the last 2. So That's how playoff football is. Whoever has the ball last and whoever scores last usually wins the game, and it happens again with this one.
Oh, this to me, this was Augustana game all over again.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that there was about 7-8 minutes left instead of 2-3 minutes left.
And
When Mankato got it going, and then when they did the onside kick, I was like, of course they did. And when they got it, I was like, ooh, this is not gonna. This feels like this is Mankato's game now. They had all the momentum going. Then they started doing that quarterback power off the left side. They do that really well. With Eckern. And let's go ahead, guys. We've got a small glimpse of video here. We'll go ahead and let that run. And you're going to go ahead and you're going to see. I mean, it was a very good defensive game, as Coach was alluding to here. Both teams getting after each other. Mankato has kind of a slip up early where they end up having that pick six. As we talked about, Russell, I thought that he kind of kept the chains moving for them without having some of those explosives down the field. And when we move a little bit further along in this, here's where Eckern goes ahead. He kind of just lofts this one up. Probably would have loved to have not done that. And all of a sudden, I felt like this could be what gets Pueblo going. The game might really turn things. Then Mankato scores, and then they do this onside and go ahead and get it. I mean, the ball bouncing all over the place. The Mavs finally come up with it. And here's Eckern running that power off the left side, and, he gets loose on this, and he's just – I can still see him running that at Maryville against Northwest Missouri State for a touchdown in their opener. I mean, they just do a nice job with that play. And, to Pueblo's credit, they came roaring right back. And I was like, okay, here you go. And then on this play here, kind of off his back foot a little bit under duress, we get the interception. Talk about one you wish you could have had back. And then, you can't give Mankato this chance because Matt Jager is just money. And, he goes ahead and makes the kick. And it's a heck of a weapon for Mankato to have when we're taking a look at playing games in cold weather, all these other situations where teams, when you're playing games where the defense is a premium and being able to count on your guy to score in those moments, he's really been a huge weapon for them.
He was crucial, and I think a drive that we didn't have video of, but after the pick six, Mankato drives before halftime and just gets 3. That was so big to not let it be a bigger lead. Hats off to him. Big time kicks, especially with Cody Ramming standing there. Cody Ramming's like 6'6", standing there. Pueblo, they blocked a couple. I was there with they beat Black Hills on block kicks. So big ones.
The big thing you guys hit on earlier was, the RMAC didn't necessarily have the close games that the NSIC did. And I think Mankato's had, 5 now of that caliber of game or that
easily
type of finish. So, there's a belief system that a lot of players have. They've done it before. They believe they can do it. Pueblo, you look back at their season, even the Grand Valley game, they were down by, 10 or 14, and they scored a last-minute touchdown to make it a one-score game. Mm-hmm. But besides that game, they blew everybody out. I mean, they beat everybody up. So their players didn't believe that in that moment they had already lived that moment where Mankato had so many times, and they continued to do it.
Guys, let's go ahead and listen to a little post-game. AC, I know you were there at the presser, but we're going to listen to Mankato first with Coach Hoffner, talking a little bit about this back-and-forth battle that we were just alluding to.
But they come right back. You got to give CSU Pueblo some credit here. We're up 23-20, and they came storming back after a big kickoff return. That was not good, so their punt return led to a score, and then their kickoff return led to a score as well. Big momentum in this game. So they went down. They had a big pass play, right? Got down inside the 25, and running back slipped out of the back when we were applying some pressure. Number 4 is a really good player, and he took it to pay dirt for a touchdown. And now all of a sudden, we're in a situation where we've got to, make some hay. We're down 3. and we drive the field, and Matt not only kicks the game winner, but before that he kicked a game tying field goal. That just a really good football team. That Colorado State University Pueblo team is really, really talented, and for us to come out of here with a win is a mini miracle, that's for sure. But exceptionally proud of these young men. I thought that they obviously made plays, but they wouldn't be able to do everything that they do without their brothers. We do it for the brotherhood, and we want to be a mentally, physically, and emotionally tough team.
I think two things there. Coach Hoffner kind of alludes to the mental toughness that you need to have in those moments, and the amount of times and experience they have with that. I think at the same time, I think they fully knew how good and explosive this Pueblo team was, and this was a big win on the road, beating the top seed in the Super Region. Now, here's Coach Vijo from Pueblo after the game as well.
Yeah, you look at a game like this, and it's easy to say that the turnover at the end is what cost you the game, and that's not what it was. Not one play will make or break a game, and we had our chances. We knew we were going to have to finish with touchdowns instead of field goals, and we didn't do that enough today. But the defense played really well all day long. Held them for most of the day. We had our opportunities, and I think there's something to be said about playing in and winning playoff games. And you can say whatever you want about, where you're ranked or whatever it is. But there's something to the experience of playing in postseason. There's something to the experience of winning in postseason. And you can't get that unless you do it. And credit to Mankato, they've done it for the last 3 years in a row. But I will say they were doing a really good job of trying to double Reggie. They had a corner on him, and they were on cloud coverage, safety help over the top almost all day long. And so, really limited his production today, but it opened up the pass game and the run game really for us to be able to execute and get the ball to some other people. They did a good job on third down in the red zone. I think for us, offensively, you go back and you look at it, and we can't hurt ourselves with penalties. We had a couple false starts, pre-snap penalties. We had a holding call that was big. We can't, against a good defense, there's only 16 teams now, there's only 8 teams left in the country. Everybody's talented. And so it's about execution, it's about doing your job. And, we did, for the most part. There were some plays today that obviously we'd love to take back. Howard.
I thought that was an interesting perspective from Coach right there. A little bit of what we've chatted about. But at the same time, this is 2 weeks in a row now where Mankato has gone ahead against a team that's got some offensive firepower and been able to, they've given up yards, but they're able to bull their neck in the red zone and not allow touchdowns. Because the same thing happened with Augustana. So they've kind of got a little bit of a script here going, and impressive that they've gone on this run. I did not see this as we entered the playoffs. I thought they were leaking oil. And you know what? They have done a great job of finding a way to win football games no matter what it looks like. Mm-hmm. Well, guys, let's go ahead, kind of move along to our next game. We've got the Beaver Nation going ahead and hitting me up with this, saying, hey, can you throw this on the pod? Sure, we can. This was in Gunnison, where there's about as many dead animals on the wall as there is people, I think. But you go ahead and you see their fan base traveled. Bemidji's further away than Mankato from Colorado, and they had a longer trip nonetheless. And they went ahead and saw a game. Coach alluded to it earlier. Statistically, Western Colorado outgains Bemidji by about 100 yards. Bemidji was 1 of 11, I think it was, on third down. If I'm not mistaken, Coach, it sounds like you already kind of looked at some of that. And the Mountaineers were pretty good on third down. But these 5 sacks seem to, once again, Bemidji's sacks really seem to, kind of derail the other team's offense a little bit, don't you think, Coach?
Yeah, absolutely. Drew Nash got his. Sam McGath got his too, but the defense of Bemidji showed up in the crucial moments. They made those crucial plays or those crucial sacks or crucial fumble return. You know, Ricky Freeman is probably one of the best defense players I've faced, and his presence wasn't as felt as some of those Bemidji D linemen.
Right. Yeah, and you take a look. Marcus Hansen, who we talked about, number 36. He did play. I noticed there was a fair amount of times where he wasn't in. Still ends up with 8 tackles in the process. Stephen Hoffman needs to be called out. He's number 9 this year. I think he was number 90 something last year, 94 maybe. And he is an underrated player for them. He had the forced fumble at the end, but had 11 tackles from his D tackle position. That's a whole lot. And they were able to get pressures. They had times where they rushed 3 and they were able to get home. And just kind of surprising with some of that. But I mean, this was a 19-7 football game, late third quarter, and I'm sitting there going, okay. They looks like this game is probably over with, and Bemidji's runs come to an end. But we're going to take a look a little bit at the highlights, and then talk a little bit more about some of the action here. And you're going to go ahead and see right away, they're looking for a field goal. Western is they get one early. McGath goes back to pass. He's able to hit Bubba Peters downfield, who I'd kind of talked about. I thought that they were going to have to keep track of him, and they kind of didn't. And he had 2 long ones that hurt him. Here's one of the two picks that Western gets. Bemidji only had about 250 yards offense. They kept track of Nash good for a lot of the game, but a few times he got loose. There's a heck of a hit there on a safety for Western. Here's Bemidji, getting after him, and then he gets out of this one, and all of a sudden he's got a little bit more speed than we thought he did. And I thought that was the ball game when he did that. I really did. Bemidji, though, hit Bubba Peters again for about a 30-yard pass. They got themselves down in the red zone, and then not on that. Let's go ahead, guys, and see. Coach, you're going to like this. We got the all-22 here. We've got the backup quarterback Josiah Roy was in.
Why are we in Indy right now?
Well, and he little uncertainty here, and then gets the fumble comes out, and all of a sudden Gabe Ward is running the other way for 79 yards. And I jumped out of my recliner and almost got a calf cramp on my jump. And I was like, okay, this is kind of a big deal at this point. 3 minutes left in the football game, and they go ahead. Pretty wild. But so you look at the box.
Out of your lap when you jumped up.
No, I was slick enough to be able to get all that in one swoop, Coach. Don't worry, Coach. I got something for you later. Just because it's our last show together, you'll still be texting me. Let's not kid ourselves.
No, I'm just good boss's pizza, man.
There we go. Let me ask Coach Draper down at the bottom here on our show. This one had to surprise you. You probably figured this one was in hand, and then not until it wasn't.
Yeah, I was super surprised. I think I texted AC at the end of the game and said, I cannot believe this just happened. I think it was right at the 3-minute mark of this game. I was flipping between Pueblo, and I saw the Pueblo shift. I was like, man, at almost very similar game shifting. I was like, wow. It was just wow, right? I mean, I really got to say, from not watching Bemidji much this year, I got to see barely any clips of them. I was really impressed on their defense. I didn't know a single name of their kids. I kind of looked for the guys that we kind of talked about. To me, it was just nameless defense. Everybody was swarming, and it was awesome to see. As a defensive coach, we talked about having 4 or more hats at the ball, and almost every clip you could stop, there's 11 guys there. And that's what it takes to win these types of games. At one point, I was sitting there, I was like, okay, when's Western going to put the night in? Like, when are we gonna take over? When's it gonna be done? Right. And I really thought, like kind of you said, when Nash had that long one, I was like, this could be it. And then it wasn't. And it just kind of shook me. Like, you got to be at this far apart in the game or in the season, you got to be able to put teams away, especially
Very
playoff
true.
teams. And so when you have the chance and you're going, you got to 1, kill the clock, 2, possess the ball, and 3, you just got to be able to score. At this point, field goals would have really helped. Like, it would have been getting some type of points out of some of your drives is really what killed you at the end of your game. We look back, but Bemidji, I mean, they got a lot of respect. Had I watched them last week more, and probably the week before that, I probably would have had even more respect and probably taken both the RMAC teams losing this week. But I did see a comment in the section about, like, is this a bigger upset than the Mankato? I personally, I think it is, because this to me, we had Western just written off, right? Like, we were like, yeah, they're the better Western team. And I was just shocked. Like, that's not what I thought Western was going to do, especially you're used to that elevation. I thought Bemidji was going to eventually gas out. It's hard to breathe. And they didn't. They had that fourth quarter energy. They brought it to them, and they ended up winning.
AC, did you get a chance to revisit any of this game or
As soon as I got home, I went back and watched it. And the way you beat Western is you stop them from running the ball. Western's only real running the ball was Drew Nash's legs. Other than that, their run game was kind of iffy. And Drew Nash, if you look at his passing numbers, 30 passes, only 123 yards. They limited big plays on that end too. I thought that they ran him a little bit too much. I think the backup was in because Drew was a little banged up.
right?
And like, what do you have running backs on your roster for if you're just going to run your quarterback and run power repeatedly? And then, like I said on the highlight as we were watching it, I hated to interrupt, but what are we doing in empty right now? What are we doing in empty right now?
I think they were trying to thin the box.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, dude, it's Western Colorado. You play tough physical football. Line it up and push them a little bit. I was going into this game thinking that Western was a better version of Bemidji. I thought that the two teams were very similar, actually. I was clearly wrong. Like, I don't know. This one was disappointing. The Pueblo one was disappointing. I think this one may have been a little bit more disappointing just because they don't have the history of Pueblo and Mankato. Like, Mankato, I didn't want to post this when I posted my pictures today, but I was like, in an all too familiar thing, Pueblo season ends to Mankato. Like, that I thought there was a possibility of. I thought there was no way Western was going to lose on their home field, especially after what Coach Vigil was talking about, learning how to win a playoff game. They did that last week. Last week they righted that wrong versus Central Washington. I thought Western was – this one hurt, man.
Let me ask you this, AC.
Well, they were the better team for 55 minutes, probably.
Let me ask you this, AC. So historically, the last, say, 5 years, Western Colorado, on offense, when they were successful, what did they do?
Run the ball.
Okay. This year, though, all right, we talked about it 2 weeks ago. All right, that Drew Nash went from game manager to game winner, right? So as a coach, especially in these big-time games, who are you going to lean on? Your dudes.
You're right.
All right, so what got him here is running Drew Nash in empty, running Drew Nash in 0-1 personnel. That O-line for Western Colorado isn't what they have had in the past. So thin in the box is probably what Jazz was thinking, and that OC was thinking, okay, that's probably our best shot because I faced Bemidji. You don't want to go up in a 4-2 or a 4-3 box against those dudes because you ain't winning. So thin that box and let Drew Nash work, and, it worked. And the guy who fumbled it was not Drew Nash, right? So I get why he did what he did because that's who got him there.
Yeah.
But I get your point too, right? You have running backs for a reason, but that's just not who Western Colorado was this year.
Here's the other thing I want to point out too about that play specifically. No, like that is, if I'm not mistaken, is 25 a linebacker on Bemidji? The guy that returned that fumble?
Yeah.
Where are the receivers at? Where are the receivers? Nobody hawks him?
Yeah.
Nobody hawks him?
I mean, that was
What are
one
you
thing I noticed
doing?
when we
What
did
are we
watch that
doing?
video. That like how nobody turned to run after the ball, and
What
it's
are
just
we
like
doing?
I know, Coach. You probably have it on your side where you run like pursuits. You know, start practice in the morning. You know, you have a turnover drill or something like a circuit. I know the defense. You're over there doing rabies, running pursuits. Like you're used to running the ball, but that's one thing that's always got me on it. Like just looking at the offense is like you don't expect a turnover, but like go back and fight for it and get it back. Like DK Metcalf did that last year, and he went and stripped the ball. He's actually done it twice. He went and chased down Buda Baker, made them kick a field goal out of it. And he last year went and stripped the guy, got the ball back, and they just went back down and scored. You never know what's going to happen. It's like just lay it out. Don't give up. That was one play that really I was like,
I
can't
didn't
believe.
see.
I can't
I
believe
can't
they
believe
didn't chase
nobody.
that.
I can't believe he didn't really have to like make a move on anybody.
Yeah.
He, as soon as he picked the ball up,
I think by the time they realized that they were going the other way with the ball, because the ball
It
was
weird.
you couldn't see much, and then all of a sudden they're 20 yards down the field, and I think everybody was just in shock, to be honest. I know I was.
Yeah.
But by the way, we've got a whole bunch today of fans of the Beavers here. They are all up in the comments. And look at this. They're having a lot of fun with all this. And you know what? I appreciate you guys for showing on up. This is we haven't had this many Bemidji folks here in the chat, so this is fun. But
Bemidji, I wasn't familiar with your game. I am now.
I was.
yeah, Coach knows. Yeah, yeah. I mean, Western scored a lot of points, didn't they, Coach? Ooh, little right there. He's not saying anything now. Okay,
we did say this game was not going to go over 20 points last week.
That's true. That's
true. We did see that though.
Well, guys, let's go ahead and before we pick that Super Region 4 game, let's take a little bit of a look at the Harlan Hill nominees that we have. We're going to look at Super Region 4, obviously, and this is for the D2 Heisman, as we call it. And guys, if you haven't seen this list already, well, it's on the screen, but we've got a lot of real recognizable names. Tanner Volk, obviously Central Washington. Jack Strand from Moorhead are two guys who kind of headline that list. Reggie Ratzlaff, we talked about a moment ago. Ricky Freeman, like you mentioned, Coach. Now, full disclosure, these guys have all been nominated by their school. So there isn't, like some big vote going on or anything like that. Now, AC, I got the impression that you were a little bit surprised by who the mine selection was.
Flynn, he beat Max in yards, but with Max being a senior and just what Max has meant to the Mines program, like breaking all those records he broke, like breaking Brody's records and kind of becoming the all-time top receiver there, I'm surprised that in his senior year they nominated Flynn instead of Max. That was super surprising because I know they couldn't have Max, even though maybe he was worthy of, a nomination last year, he couldn't with Matoka. Like Max goes all 4 years now, probably, and never gets a Harlan Hill nomination. When I definitely say he was deserving sole player. That was really surprising to me when I saw it.
I thought maybe because he was dinged up a little bit this year, and Flynn ended up having a bigger season, that was the reasoning for it. I didn't look too deep into it. My first thought when I saw the list, I thought that he would be on it. I'll be real frank. Just because, there's names on here that are clearly not going to win the award, but are being recognized by their school. Okay? Mm-hmm. Evan Lovett had a great year for Minot State. He's not winning this award. Mm-hmm. And there's every guy on this list has had a very good season. And it's great to see these guys get recognized. Mm-hmm. Now, Coach, when you take a look at this list, from your league, being in the Lone Star, Braden Fuller was the guy I was expecting, and he's on here. Was that kind of, when you looked at this list, was that kind of the name that you were expecting to see from your conference at bare minimum?
Yeah. The thing I'm happy about is at least coaches, you said anybody can nominate anybody, right? I can nominate a player, and he's going to be on this list, but the coaches in this region did a good job of only nominating guys that belong on this list. You know, you said it. There's some guys that aren't definitely going to win it, but you know, Braden Fuller deserves to be on this. Obviously, Ricky Freeman is a stud. He deserves it. I mean, Tanner Volt, his career, he deserves it. He's kind of like School of Mines guy, right? Max, he
Right.
deserves to be on this list.
Yep.
Well, Tanner deserves to be on this list because of the historical piece that he brings. But I mean, Reggie Retzlaff is probably the best player I saw on this list.
Okay, so Coach, they're going to narrow this down to 2 guys in each super region. They're going to get to 8. They do that here in about a week. Guys, who are your 2 that you think will be representing SR4? I don't want you to play cheerleader. I want you to tell me who you think will be the 2. Draper, I'm starting with you.
I think because the award of what it kind of stands for, the best player. Obviously, we just saw this week what happens when you take Reggie out of the game and what that does to your play calling. So that would be like the number 1 I see going by. And honestly, Marcus Hansen just kind of what y'all said about him and him being on the list, but getting to see like a little bit of piece of him this last week. Obviously, he's on the list. If he were 100%, I'd probably be more wowed about watching him. But just watching him, I was like, okay, this kid could be on it. So those 2, obviously, I kind of would say it because one's still in it, and one was the reason his team kind of got the flow of him very efficiently.
Coach, how about you, McCullough?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't looked at all of these guys' production over the year.
Well, you're still playing a football season, so
yeah. I mean, Reggie would be 1, and then whoever had the most production out of Marcus or Ricky. I mean, they're both studs, but Marcus not playing the same amount of minutes as he normally does these last 2 weeks probably hurt him a little bit. And I would say probably Reggie and Ricky.
AC, who do you think?
I think the consensus is that Reggie is probably going to get that nod. As much as I want to say Ricky or Mr. Hansen, I could definitely see Jared Epperson for Augustana maybe getting the nod. If I had to gun to my head, I'm going to say Hansen because Bemidji wins. Like whether I don't know how this is voted on or not, but I know like people are humans. Bemidji's still playing.
The
Ricky's
SIDs,
Everson's not playing. There's a lot of guys that aren't playing, whereas Hansen still is, and then Reggie's just undeniable.
The sports information directors vote on this. They all get a vote.
They're people.
I think there's going to be a popularity contest aspect to this. I think Tanner Volk might end up on there. Tanner did not have the year this year that he had, the ridiculous year he had last year. But at the same time, he got well known last year. That said, I'm going to take Reggie Retzlaff and I'm going to take Jack Strand. Strand second in the nation in yards per game passing. Has he thrown it 100 times more than Zach Zabrowski or something? He's thrown a whole lot more. I know that. But at the same time, when the SIDs are going to pull up the stats, they're going to see that name right at the top of the quarterback list. I think that's going to have something to do with that. And Strand still had a strong year. So that's how I see that, but it'll be interesting to see what it comes of it. Zach Zabrowski from UCM, who, Coach, you're going to be playing here within the week on Saturday. I think he is probably the heavy favorite nationally to repeat. His numbers are just eye-popping across the board. But there's also, guys, in addition to that, there's the Upshaw Award that's going on right now for the best lineman, offensive or defensive lineman, in Division II. Here's who's representing Super Region 4. And Jake Gannon from Bemidji is on this list. And Jake Gannon has got what it looks to be his mom in our comments here, supporting her player. So that's pretty cool.
Did the RMAC win this award last year? Was it a Mines Levi
Levi Johnson won this last year.
He sure did from Mines, their offensive tackle. Exactly right. Now, when I look at this list, I think Aiden Williams is getting a lot of pro looks. He's one of the top O linemen in the country, and he's going to be pretty high up on this list, I think. Hunter O'Connor has had himself a heck of a career. I've been running our All-American Elite 100 team, for the last little bit here. And I tell you, his name's been in the mix for a long time. He's been a dude. I don't know if he gets recognized enough, to be honest, considering how good he is. Jake Gannon might be the best center in Division II. So you've got some great names on this list. Now, Coach, you mentioned Scipio from Pueblo. Is he the guy you would be leaning towards?
I mean, he's the only one I played besides the Eastern New Mexico guy. He's the only one I played, so bias tells you yeah. But I've actually seen Aiden Williams and, obviously the draft stuff talking about him. I mean, he's freaking good. And then I got to see Jake Gannon firsthand last year. I think they're both really, really good.
Fair enough. Well, guys, I want to make sure that this is the kind of award that's not getting forgotten because and for those who don't know, Gene Upshaw played for the Oakland Raiders back in the day and was quite the old lineman. Any idea, Coach, where Gene Upshaw played football at?
No clue.
Texas A&I, which is now Texas A&M Kingsville.
I knew that.
So Coach, that's an important fact for you guys that you need to have in your back pocket down in Texas. So guys, let's go ahead and kind of move a little bit further along with where we're at. We were taking a look at the Upshaw, kind of as we head on into a quick break here. Our sponsor, once again, Boss's Pizza and Chicken. They have locations all through the upper Midwest, but they are looking to expand. They're looking for us to help get that word out for franchisees. They go ahead and set up everything for you. They've got about, 12 locations, I believe, now at this point. And the pizza in the bottom right corner, guys, that is the Boss Hog Pizza Challenge. Brandon Meisner, the founder and owner of our website, he and I tried that about a year ago or so, and didn't go so well. And
did not.
No. He and I still joke about that. I kind of threaten him by saying I'm going to bring pizza on in, and then he gets those thoughts about how that didn't go well. But I tell you that the glass right there in the middle with the beverage in it looks okay right at this point. But let's.
I needed better for these games this weekend. I needed a few of them.
Well, guys, as we go ahead and we move on in, we're looking at Mankato and Bemidji. They played in week 2. This was a heck of a ball game, and Bemidji outgains Mankato 452 yards, which for the way Bemidji plays football, that's a lot of yards for them. At the same time, almost no penalties in this game. They let those two play. I mean, you can see that right there. But Bemidji also controlled time of possession, lost on a last-second field goal by Matt Jager right there. That's kind of a common theme with him. He's getting the most publicity of any kicker I know in Division II in quite some time. But
He has a really cool name too.
That said, before we jump into our picks, guys, my fellow Northern Sun Weekly host, Tom Frederick, or as some people refer to him as the old guy with the long hair, he's calling USF basketball games right now for the Sioux Falls Cougars, and he is not going to be able to make the trip to Mankato this weekend because he's got a men's and women's doubleheader Friday, Saturday. So that said, he has offered his thoughts about this game, and we're going to go ahead and listen to what Tom's call is with who he's got for the winner.
University of Sioux Falls, I was able to see both these teams in action. Cougars lost 28-24 to Bemidji, beat Mankato 40-36. My impressions Bemidji had the better defense, led by Marcus Hansen and the guys up front. Mankato, a stronger offense, diversified offense. But that being said, Bemidji's got pretty good wideout in that Bubba Peters, so I'm not going to count them out. Matt Jager, though, plays for Mankato. He beat Bemidji the first time. He's ousted Augustana and CSU Pueblo the last 2 weeks. Can he do it again? I think the clock will strike midnight on the Mavs this weekend. Bemidji will win it in Mankato in a tight one, but the Beavers march on to the Final Four.
Tom, he kind of swerved us there. I thought that he was going with Mankato for a minute. A little bit of swerve at the end. So now,
going to strike midnight.
the fact that he's taken Mankato, I will get residual heat from that at Mankato for his pick. You wait and see. So guys, as we go ahead and we look at this matchup here, both teams are essentially sitting now at 10-3. Neither team is, lighting up the scoreboard, in the what I call the first page of the NCAA points per game. These two teams are on page 2, not page 1. But defensively, Bemidji's on page 1, and Mankato, the last few weeks, would be on page 1 with the way that they've played and limited touchdowns. So my question becomes, who are you guys going to take in this? Coach, let's see if you can stay hot. Who do you have?
Stay hot. I think that this game will be completely opposite of the first game where, Bemidji threw for only 119 or whatever, 149, and Mankato threw for 270, and Bemidji ran for 300. That ain't happening. I think this game is going to be exactly what we've seen the last 2 weeks from everybody in this region. It's going to be 14-12, 14-10, some crazy score that none of us expect. The one thing I've always heard my entire life is don't trust college kickers. And I think that what happens this week is Mankato has a chance to win this game with the kicker and misses it. The Bemidji goes on. So now Mankato probably wants me to pick against them because I picked against them every week and they keep winning. So I'm picking Bemidji.
I got you. That was interesting. So Coach, just for the record, you got Bemidji winning. They're wanting to know if you'd like to reconsider.
Nope.
No. AC. So you've just thrown the curse down. Okay.
Yep, Mankato's going on.
Yeah. So AC, tell me how you're seeing this one.
I'm thinking, watching the highlights and watching the game back from Bemidji, quarterbacks can find some success with their legs a little bit, even though that defensive line is ferocious. Drew Nash had quite a bit of success on the ground. I just watched Hayden Eckern kind of run his way into a win in Pueblo. And I'm going to take the X factor of Coach Hoffner. I thought that timely onside kick call out of nowhere was amazing. I forget the exact quote that Chris says, but in Hoff we trust. I'm going to roll with that. I'm going to go with the Mavericks to win at home. I know it's hard to beat a team twice, but just the way Mankato's playing and the belief in those players. Like, I was on their sideline as that all happened. Like, I got a ton of pictures and just experienced it live and up close. I don't think they're going to be beat, not on their home field. So I got Mankato in another nail biter. I don't think they're going to win, comfortably or anything. I think this one's going to play out the way every game is played out for them in this playoff run, but I do think they're going to win it.
Okay. Mr. Draper, you were very interesting a week ago with your pick of Mankato. Are you staying on that bandwagon, or now that Pueblo's out of it, do you not have any, you don't need to hedge any more bets or anything now? How are you seeing this one?
I think defense is going to win championships. Defense is what brings you into this situation. I also think the color green is an ugly color, but you will not hear me cheer for Mankato for 2 weeks in a row. You will not hear me say Mankato wins 2 years or 2 weeks in a row, because I see Bemidji's defense flying around, providing a lot more than kind of what Pueblo was also able to do on the offense. It's going to be a little bit too much. 27-17 game for me. Bemidji goes on.
Wow. I'm really surprised between our Sunday night show, this show, even my guy Tom taking Bemidji. I'm surprised at how much Bemidji is getting favored in this one, despite the fact it's at Mankato. That said, Bemidji has not beaten Mankato since, I think, 2016, if my memory serves me right. Bemidji got him pretty good that year. I want to say it was like second game of the season. It just feels like Bemidji owes them. Bemidji they have been having trouble beating Mankato. They've been playing them early in the season, the last handful of years, and they have battled with them, and it's been a knockdown drag-out, and Mankato has found a way to win each one of them. It just feels to me like Bemidji's due to win one here in that series. I'm taking Bemidji here on the road. I picked them to win the conference at the beginning of the year. I'm staying with them here to advance to the Final Four. So,
I'm the lone Maverick here.
What's up?
I'm the lone Maverick here, but that tracks me and Mavericks. We kind of go together, so it's only
well.
right.
And if I'm not mistaken, Ferg last night on our national show, he did in Hoffner We Trust. So I think that he was going the same direction there with you. But no, I've been getting text messages a little bit from Mankato. They've been curious as to which direction we were going to go on this. I think they love and are relishing the fact that we are not taking them. Coach, that's something that's good for a bulletin board, isn't it?
Yeah, they'll post it after they win Saturday.
Well, I want to go ahead and keep in mind for folks who haven't been subscribing to our YouTube page, please do. There's so much content on there. If you're the type of person who's following D2 football in general, in any way, shape, or form, I don't know how you don't subscribe to our page, because you're not going to find that degree of content anywhere in the landscape. It just is what it is. Coach, you have got a big game up and coming this week. That came up really fast in my mind.
Yeah. Thanksgiving break. I mean, you had 5 days off. Both teams did, and then you come back and it's game week out of nowhere. So, we traveled Thursday down there to Corsicana, and it's here before you know it.
So, tell me a little bit about your you guys have at these bowl games. They normally kind of have some type of dinner thing set up for you or something like that. Kind of what are your Corsicana's about an hour south of Texas, south of Waxahachie, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say Waxahachie, but that said, Coach, what do you guys have? What do you guys have set up? What do they have ready going for you?
Yeah, so they do it really well. I got the opportunity to go in 2022, and we beat Kingsville that year. That kind of propelled me into this opportunity at UT Permian Basin. But we go down on Thursday. They do a good banquet that night. Dinner with both teams. We'll do a little family feud against each other that night. The next morning on Friday, we wake up, we do some community service, High Five Friday, stuff we're accustomed to. And then we'll do our walkthrough. We'll get to go to the movies and hang out as a team. And then that evening, we'll go downtown Corsicana. We'll do a little parade with our band and cheerleaders and all the fans from both teams. And both head coaches will get to address the crowd. And then the next morning, we kick off at noon. So, this is two former playoff teams last year, two teams that I'm sure both head coaches thought we'd be in the playoffs. Both of us had some key injuries and weird breaks throughout the season that cost us playoffs. And, both of us, this is a good exclamation point for the end of the season, heading into the off season. So you got two top 15 offenses. You obviously got the best player in the country. I think he's going to win his back-to-back this year. We talked about the Harlan Hill finalist earlier. I wasn't going to say it then, but I'll say it now. They can all be finalists, but the best player in the country is Zach Zabrowski. It's not even close. The kid is unreal. The kid will be playing on Sundays. But, I mean, their talent level, it starts with him. But, I mean, every receiver on their team can play next level. They have one of the best offensive linemen I've seen on film this year.
Yep.
They're moving their right guard to right tackle. He's been an All-American. He'll be an All-American this year. But their defense, I mean, they're tenacious up front. They're MIAA defensive line, so they're going to be stout. And then they got great players on the back end, so it's going to be a tall task. I think both teams are kind of scared of each other's offenses. The last time that happened was Bemidji in the first round last year, so it'll probably be 10-3. Who knows?
Coach, our audience is curious to that banquet. Are you going to be wearing this blazer?
Hey.
Only for you, Whit. Only for you.
Coach knows I like to needle him about the blazer. That was what he wore to LSC Media Day when he was not very happy that they were picked third in the conference after just winning the conference the year before.
Well, we sure finished third, so those coaches did a heck of a job. I'm just trying to be like Tremaine Jackson over at Valdosta.
I know his is red and yours is orange. So
yeah.
But Coach, by the way, Massey's giving you guys a little bit of heat. They got Central winning 35-28 with your old logo there as well. I see. But
well, maybe Massey's just like I have been these playoffs, and they'll get this one wrong too, just like I've gotten every single one.
See, Coach, I was just giving you some ammo right there for your bulletin board. There you go, right there. But so guys, let's go ahead and recognize some of the folks who helped us out. AC, I'm going to let you go. Amelia has been a superstar for us here in the playoffs.
Oh man, shout out! She's been a superstar all year. Like for the RMAC weekly pod, I want to give a shout out to a lot of people. Her, KOTA, Mr. Vic Quick and Andrew Lind out there in South Dakota, Theo Smith and Giancarlo up at Mesa, Oli Fiasco, Hayden's his real name, but Fiasco Films, Altitude Artistry from Pueblo. All the people that have helped the video, Get Me video and stuff. That's what really makes these podcasts go. I can't tell you guys how thankful I am. But Amelia, man, these last 2 weeks, it's been like watching a little cinematic movie every time I get clips from her. So she's been amazing. I really hope they keep her. Hey, all schools, pay your creatives. This stuff matters. Pay your creatives. Keep them around.
That's very, very true. And KKTV or in was it Colorado Springs? I believe it is, if I'm not mistaken. They had footage for us. Yeah,
my old station in Grand Junction gave me a couple clips this week. KREX and Grand Junction. Shout out to everybody, man. We appreciate all of that.
Well, and for those who haven't gotten a chance to see all the other pods that we have, we will have ones popping up throughout the week. We're kind of rearranging as to when people are going to be available. It sounds like our Super Region 3 podcast will be Thursday evening. Our guy JD is super busy with basketball games and can't make it until then. But it sounds like 8 Central will be that one. I think Super Region 1 will be earlier that night. I don't know exactly when Super Region 2 is going to be, but those guys should be landing on that one of the next few days. Guys, I did notice here in our comments area, if I'm not mistaken, I'm going to take a quick look. I noticed that we had a question about kind of the super regions that we have going forward, guys. And let me go ahead. I'm going to pull this on down, guys. And looks like Chris has got for RMAC to get 3 teams in future playoffs. RMAC number 1 and 2 seeds cannot lose to an unranked NSIC teams at home in the playoffs. In the future, the RMAC will not be in the same super region. So I'm going to go ahead just real quickly, guys, and I'm going to try not to mess this up. Give me 1 second. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys a quick graphic I was messing around with, and I do mean quick. This is Super Region 3 going forward. Now, there's a whole lot of busy going on right now. Actually, Super Region 3 in the future will be kind of the upper Midwest, which is going to be the Northern Sun, as you can see, top left portion of the page. Then the GLIAC, if you move dead east. So the Northern Sun will be in the same super region with Ferris State, Grand Valley, teams like that. Then you're going to have two conferences that I'm going to say are a little bit more mid-tier. You're going to have GLVC and GMAC. That's the conference where Indy is from, GLVC. And the GMAC is where we have schools such as Ashland, Tiffin, Findlay, teams like that. So that's what Super Region 3 will look like next year, which brings in a question for the RMAC folks tuning in. What is Super Region 4 going to look like? Well, I'm going to call that the Colorado to Arkansas region, because you're going to have anywhere from the RMAC teams next door to there's going to be the MIAA teams, then the teams down in Texas, the Lone Star, along with the GAC, the Hardings of the world, which is going to be a real interesting mix. And my first thought is this super region is going to have the most depth to it, and it's going to become the new one people complain about is got too many good teams. That's going to be my first impression. Coach,
I agree.
As a new set of eyes on this, and I know that you probably have already looked at a lot of this, what's your instant reaction, good or bad?
I mean, this is the new Super Region 3. I mean, everybody complained about Super Region 3. I firmly believe that the national championship is Ferris State versus Harding this week.
Sure.
But
and I don't think you're not alone in that, certainly.
I think you're going to start hearing that same chatter about this region. I mean, think about this. All right. You could face Pueblo or School of Mines game one. Then you go play Pitt State, and then you go play Harding. And that could be your region. I mean, that is just juggernaut. It's going to be tough. The winner of this region moving forward is going to be obviously one of the best four teams in the country, but I'm saying probably that regional final is two of the top 3-4 teams in the country as well.
Well, and I think it's going to be an interesting thing because you're going to have, let's say, for example, if it was this year, you would have some teams such as Pitt State, what was it, Central Oklahoma. Then you would have had, Western Colorado. You would have had Pueblo. You would have had, Angelo. You would have had probably Central Wash. And then in the same mix, somebody's going to get left out here. You would have Ouachita and Harding. So not all those teams could make it. Now, there is a push to try and get 8 teams per super region in a 32-team field as opposed to the 28 we're at right now. But we can only live in the world as we know it at this moment.
Yeah, I think that question that brought this up, you're going to see out of these 4 conferences, 3 of them have 2 teams, 1 of them have 1. There will be none of these conferences will have 3 in the playoffs. It won't happen.
It does seem like that's going to be a different world because now you're going to have, instead of 15 conferences in Division II, you'll have 16 because the Conference Carolinas is being added to the mix out east. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's changed a whole lot of the balance of power in Super Region 1 or 2, if I'm going to be really frank. But it's changed the look of this quite a bit. I like having some of these type of changes. It gives us new, fresh matchups that we haven't been seeing and all of that stuff. If I'm going to be really frank, what I was talking about with my super region in the Northern Sun up at the very top, this isn't going to change a whole lot with the Northern Sun in terms of having to take flights. Because if you look at like Indy, for example, who's been in the GLVC championship a whole lot, I mean, they're the best team there. They're not within driving distance of most of the Northern Sun teams. The Northern Sun teams in the playoffs are not in driving distance with the GLIAC teams or the teams in Ohio in green, the GMAC. So Northern Sun is still going to have this situation of potentially cannibalizing itself in the early rounds because of the fact that they're not going to be within driving distance. And that's a whole separate thing. But A lot of people think that this is going to be massive changes. I don't know if it necessarily is. I think the biggest thing that we're really seeing here is you're seeing the GLIAC and the MIAA broken up, and that's about what we're seeing. If we're going to be really honest, that's the biggest difference to me, is those two are not against each other. A whole lot of the other stuff is similar. The MIAA now having a little more freedom and not having the Ferris State, that they've had so much trouble with, Ferris specifically. It'll be interesting to see how the MIAA does with that. Because keep in mind, in the other super region that we just spoke of a moment ago, guys, who would be the team coming out of that? You would have been looking at a Pueblo, a Pitt State, Central Oklahoma, and a Harding. Harding probably would be the favorite, but that would be an interesting mix.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun for the RMAC because I do think it might be a little bit of rough sledding these first couple of years. But naturally, it's going to force the RMAC to step up its level. Hopefully, the rest of the conference can start making this competitive for our top teams. So when they get in these tough games, they can play in it.
I'm hoping as we go and as we get bigger in the D2 world that they kind of do away with this because, like the NCAA talks about bringing experience to the student athletes, then provide a different round matchup every year for us. Provide the top teams. Kind of like how FCS does it. The top teams are in the bracket, right? And FBS kind of both ways. It doesn't matter where you're at. It's kind of scattered throughout. So Pueblo could have, flown out to Charleston or however all the way across this year. And that's something I wish as a former player that we got to do. And it wasn't, hey, we're playing Colorado School of Mines week 1. Hey, we're playing Mankato again 3 years in a row. Provide more experience, provide more opportunities for these kids to go out and play across the United States. But obviously, that's as we grow as a league, and we are doing it. I think there's a lot of respect coming to D2 now. That and the last couple of years that it's growing, but I would hope that the next time they do realignments that they do away with it, let the best teams play. That's kind of just what I would like,
Well, with the budget that they have for D2, unfortunately with the flights, we're not going to see that anytime soon. However, what I would rather see is instead of having a regional tournament, which they apply this thinking to every sport, what you mentioned with FCS, they still try and regionalize it in moments when they can within FCS.
Right.
I would rather them select the best 28 teams, first of all. Then start making your matchups based upon trying to save flights, but not concerning yourself. Am I having, the GAC playing, like let's say Delta State playing against Harding. Mm-hmm. That's a matchup that they're down the road, but they never play each other because they're not in the same region. And we get too much hung up in this regional thought, whereas just look at it as a whole, you can make this happen. I've drawn up these brackets before where I've had the same amount of flights as the NCAA has, but I didn't do a regional, I didn't do the regional confines. And it makes for a much more interesting looking tournament, I have to be honest with you. Yep. So let's see if that happens going forward. But I had some folks asking, is this the setup going forward? Yeah, this is next season is when this starts. So this is the last year of the Northern Sun being in Super Region 4. They'll be in Super Region 3 again. Now you're going to see, for example, the GAC, the MIAA are going to be in Super Region 4. So we haven't really talked about this on any of our programming yet. We'll talk more about that kind of stuff this week because we're kind of wrapping on up. But guys, I don't have anything else kind of more for us. There wasn't a ton of questions, a ton of comments though, and I really appreciate that folks are going ahead and getting in the comments like they have been here tonight. Really appreciate you guys doing that. Coach McCullough, I want to thank you for coming on with us. this is the first time we've had a coach come on and do these kind of shows with us and be engaged. And you know what? You're always welcome to come on with us anytime. Again, I really appreciate that. Okay.
I appreciate you. And we talked about it. The reason I did this, all right, which a lot of coaches would probably say I'm stupid for doing, is I wanted to give back to you guys for everything that you do for D2. I mean, you guys are helping growing D2 athletics, not just football, but all athletics because of the media presence that you guys have. And for us, whether it's UTPB or it's freaking Slippery Rock across the country, you're doing so much for us and putting us on the map. Whereas 5-10 years ago, D2 was known as D2, but there's a lot of good football in D2, a lot of good players, and you guys are covering us. So thank you guys.
Well, I appreciate those words, and you know what? I want to thank Tanner and AC for coming on with us, because all of us are kind of taking our own time out because of a passion that we have for this. We all want to stay involved in some way, shape, or form with football. And right now, this is kind of what that looks like for us. And so I appreciate everybody tuning on in. We will have programming throughout the week. But, otherwise, for those who are going to be in Mankato, come looking for my big butt. I'll be there. You can throw rocks at me, give me a hard time, whatever you need to do. But I'll see you guys there at the tailgate. Everybody else, thanks very much for tuning in.